So what we're going to do in this stream is I'm going to play the first levels in my game Emoji Pop, and I'm going to kind of analyze them with you, and then I'm going to talk about how you can make levels and help me out actually design the game. I want to introduce you to my game Emoji Pop, which you can see on the right. So Emoji Pop is a game I've been working on for about the last year, and it's a bubble shooter puzzle game. So if you want to play the game, go to playemojipop.com on any device with a web browser, your phone or laptop. You'll first be presented with a login screen. So if you want to log into the game, that will allow you to save and create your own levels. And then after you create your own levels, you can share them on social media or with me. And in streams like this one, I would love to get players' levels and play test them live for everybody. And then I can give you feedback and we can discuss the level design of your levels. So this is the first shot of the first world. So in this stream, I'm going to be talking about the game design and why I designed it the way it is, and maybe looking at what we can improve in the levels in the game. So first off, you open the game and you're not really sure what to do, but you know it says hold to aim. So I assume most players will kind of just tap this box and oh, they'll see that something fired. So that's why I had the light blue bubbles. They're called soap bubbles, and they'll pop no matter what you hit it with. So that's why I had a row of soap at the bottom. Actually, yeah. That's why I had a row at the bottom, because no matter what, the player would see the action that they took. So now the player has to make a match. So this is where if you shoot somewhere else, the game will tell you, oh, you can't just shoot anywhere. So this is where I reinforce the idea of aiming into the player's head. So players, before they go to the next step, are going to have to learn that they have to aim for a specific spot on the screen. And this is where they'll learn the concept of matching, which is to make matches on the screen, you have to shoot emojis of the same color. And finally, they have to drop all of the puzzle by hitting the soap here. Okay, so next we have two blue bubbles and there's only one blue match. So this is another really good test to make sure players know to make the blue match. So no matter how many bubbles they throw, I'm going to keep giving them blue until they realize, okay, this is how you play the game, by making colored matches. Now this is where we introduce the second main mechanic of the game, which is swapping. So the game would be kind of boring if it wasn't for swapping. Most decisions in the game are pretty simple. You're aiming at the best match possible to get higher up on the screen, but because we have the swapping mechanic, now there's a double decision. So you're not only making a decision of where on the screen to make a match, you're having to make strategic choices as to which colored emoji are you going to use. And so this creates all kinds of interesting dynamics that have to do with the emojis that get introduced later on in the game. So this is the swap tutorial, and so to swap your bubble, you simply hit the phone at the bottom left, and you can swap between your two bubbles to make the choice as to which color you want to shoot. So I've highlighted the yellow bubbles where I would like the player to shoot. And now the player should definitely know in their head, okay, these giant groups of bubbles are targets to be aimed for. These are juicy matches to make. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is the first level of the game. I actually refer to levels in Emoji Pop as worlds. So worlds are giant levels that contain many levels within them. This is very different than most bubble shooters that are simply a linear list of levels that the player goes through one at a time. So in order to play a level, to unlock a level in a world, you have to hit these special spinning stars. So very early in the game, I have the player, if they shoot anywhere else, they're not able to, so I'm forcing them to grapple with the star. And so once you hit a star, you get to play the level that star contains. Okay, so now we're going to get into the interesting level design stuff. This is the first level in Emoji Pop, at least it is right now. Although I would love feedback as to what people think, if there's any game designers out there or any just players in general, if you have any feedback on this level. So I've designed this level keeping in mind that most players are not going to be very good at the game. Obviously, they've only been playing for 1 minute. So this level contains only 3 colors. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty short. It's a one-screen puzzle. And so it's a pretty simple pattern. I made a simple pattern level because I want it to be easy to read. But at the top, the only thing that's unique about the level is that there's giant chunks of matches at the top. So something that's really important in Emoji Pop is I want the player to be going for the highest parts of the level. Uh, in these kinds of games, players have the tendency to just aim for the lower matches, but that's not the most optimal strategy for winning. By aiming for the higher up matches, you'll be able to drop all of the bubbles below, thus saving you moves. So already I'm trying to, at least subconsciously, start teaching players you want to be aiming for the higher parts of the level. And so that's why I've included giant chunks of soap in the world, and also these pyramid matches at the very top here. So let me just go ahead and when I play these levels, sometimes I won't play them optimally. I'll just be making sort of random moves because I'm trying to get the experience of what players would actually experience when playing the level themselves. And so, since they're new players, they probably wouldn't be making the best matches. Although, if you're pretty good at these kinds of games, it's interesting. It's an interesting challenge to try to do as well as you possibly can. It'd be cool if somebody had a feature that rewarded you extra if you're really good at the level. Some games like this definitely have features like that. I also make sure to give the player lots of moves because I know they're going to be making mistakes and they're still honestly learning how to aim and stuff. So I need to give them room to experiment in the early parts of the game. So if you're really good, you'd probably aim for the bank. I'm just going to do that here. Bank it off the wall. So in Emoji Pop, whenever you beat a level, you get to spin a slot machine, which earns you moves. So I've earned a bunch of moves here. So that's the incentive to winning levels. By winning levels, you get bonus moves that you get to use on the world. So you go through the world and you want to get these stars. And if you beat them, you get more moves to keep going further in the world. So if you're really good at beating these levels, you're going to keep moving forward with great progress. But if you aren't able to beat some of these levels, your progress is going to be very slow. And sometimes you might open the game and you might not even be able to get to a star. So that's my way of really incentivizing players to beat these stars. The biggest difference in Emoji Pop, though, is unlike most games, you have to keep playing the same level over and over again until you beat it. Whereas in this game, you only have 1 to 3, depending on your streak that you're on, you only have 1 to 3 tries to beat a level. So it's kind of more intense and it's more skill based, but also less frustrating because players don't have to keep playing the same level over and over again, banging their head against the wall. So this is the second star. So I don't force players to get this second star in the world. So this is something I kind of threw in for more maybe somewhat advanced players or players who are really paying attention. I want to reward them, and the fact that they're in tune to the fact that these stars matter. That if they went out of their way to get a star like this, because the star was placed on the right hand side of the screen, which was a slightly thicker part of the level. So technically, it might cost you more moves to go through this part of the level, but if you beat this level, then it's definitely well worth it. So this is the second level in the game, and I use totally different colors so players see right away, okay, there's a lot of emojis in here. They're not all going to be the same colors. It's still a 3-color level, though, because I want the player to be... I don't want them to have too many choices. It should be somewhat readable. Although in this level, unlike the first one, it's a little more chaotic, the matches. So players have to put a little bit more labor into the reading of the board. So I'm just going to kind of play it. I'm going to play it how I would play it. So I've played these levels so many times that I know that this exact path I'm going on is the optimal strategy. If you notice, I have fewer moves in this level because this is where I want to start challenging the player a little bit, or at least I think some players won't even realize that they can lose levels, so I want to at least show them the intensity a bit. And if you're a player, let me just do that. If you're a player who's kind of just making matches willy-nilly, you're probably going to lose this level the first time. So I'm just going to show you a loss. Okay, so I've put myself into a higher streak, but so just lost the first time. So I'm on a tier 3 streak, so I get 2 more tries. So I'm gonna retry this level again. So my hope is the first user experience is that most players, except for the most advanced ones, will lose this level the first time. And then they'll learn, okay, you can lose levels, and this is the process of losing a level. And they'll learn a lot in this level if they lose the first time, because they will obviously have made some mistakes in not aiming for the giant chunk of soap at the top. And so the second time they play the level, I think many of them will learn, okay, I need to definitely focus on getting to the top. Hopefully they'll have learned their mistakes. So I'm just going to play it how I was going to play it before. So if you're really advanced, you can kind of make these tight shots that clear multiple matches at once. But I'm not expecting players to know that now. And let me see if I can make this shot right here. There we go. I'm pretty good at the game because I made it. Alright, so we got another win. We get to spin the slot machine again. Ooh, plus 10 moves. Alright, I'm excited to get to the next world. And so most of the soap, so these soap bubbles, these giant chunks of soap, most of them were in rows of 3 at the beginning because I'm really training players to try to go for these giant things. But at the top, this is the first time where there's only 1 row of soap. So I think it is more possible that some players don't realize that they need to be hitting the soap. So they might just kind of go for some of these other matches for a while. So I'm still debating to myself, do I want to add more rows of soap to the top? So let me know if you have any opinion about that. Okay, so we beat the first world of the game, which means we get to spin the slot machine again. Plus 10 moves. Here's a little inside information. That your first world, every slot machine you spin will give you the maximum amount of moves. This is because I want players to have a really good positive experience the first times they spin the slot machine. Because imagine if some players spun the slot machine their first few times and they didn't get any moves from it. They're going to think that this feature is pointless, even though they just got incredibly unlucky. So I want to make sure the players have a really good, positive, early experience for the game. So that's why I've kind of rigged it to in the player's advantage, at least. So we've unlocked the next world, which means we unlock a new emoji. So you get to hit this little vibrating present. And we have the rocket emoji, the double rocket emoji, which I've designed to look a little bit like the rocket in Toon Blast. Normally I'd have a tutorial video right here that the player can click on, and the video would explain to them what this new emoji does and some of the design principles that are involved with its use in your own levels. So I start off world number 2 with this tutorial. Again, I force them to interact with this double rocket emoji so they can see the value of it. And so the double rocket emoji clears everything in the row and drops everything below it. So it's a very powerful, explosive obstacle. So I'm going to play it how a normal player would probably play it. I would probably squeeze this through, but maybe some players aren't at that point yet. So I have immediately after their first use, I have a couple matches after their first use of the rocket, but then I have another very powerful rocket drop because when you're onboarding a player to a new game design concept, especially at the beginning, you want them to be constantly interacting with this thing over and over again to get it in their heads, the value of it and how it works. So hit it again and it clears all the rockets. So here, I'm not forcing players to hit these stars anymore. But it's so inviting and it's in the center that I think most players will hit it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is the 3rd level in the game. So there's only 8 moves to this level, so it's a very short level. And I'm definitely expecting some players to lose this, most players to lose this level at least the first time. So let me play it how I think maybe some players would play it. Okay, so I made a little mistake there. Let's see if I can use some skill to recover. Okay, so if I had gotten a green emoji, I might have been able to win, but it doesn't look like I'll be able to do that anymore. So I was one move away from being able to hit that rocket row at the top. So let me try that again. So let's look at this level. So the pattern, I'm gonna go through all of the kind of mechanical aspects of this level. So mechanically, if you just look at it, it's very simply patterned. On the left, there's the same shape of like trapezoid figures over and over again. But the interesting aspect of this level is that on the right side, there's a big gap at the top, and there's these two rocket emojis in the middle. So this is the first level where I'm really giving players a really strong sense of choice. So I'm telling them you can go through these chunky matches on the left, which might require you to kind of tightly aim your shots at the top and get lucky with some of the colors. But if you could also make the decision by going to the right, which is fewer matches, although they're smaller. And so this is like an interesting choice that I think creates replayability. So if the player goes up the left side the first time, they're going to be excited to play the level again because they're like, okay, let me try going this other way, and then maybe if the right way didn't work out, they'll try again the left way. It's like it's a really strong aspect of the level that keeps them wanting to replay and replay with the confidence that they're eventually going to be able to win. So that's something that if you're interested in making your own emoji pop levels, should be definitely keeping in your mind. How can I give players the confidence and the will to want to play the same level over and over? So let me go up the left hand side. I'm actually not totally sure which is the optimal strategy. It might even be the left side. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Alright, got a little lucky with the colors. I was hoping for a red. Alright, let me go for the red here. Looks like I'm barely going to beat it this time. So I liked that I won with one move left over here, because I would have won with on my last move going on the right side. So whether you choose the left side or the right side, it seems like it's fairly balanced. It seems like both of them are just as likely for you to win. So it might just kind of depend on the player's unique skill set, which I really like that aspect of this level. So it's interesting making these early levels because I really want to make interesting challenges, but then again, I can't make anything too difficult that players will kind of lose confidence in their ability to play this game. Also, it should be noted that I think, unless I'm misremembering, I think that was the first 4-color level, which okay, I got +6 moves that time. So 4-color levels have a little more choice. So this world is a 4-color world. So there's going to be more choices, there's more colors, there's more chances that players are going to get kind of unlucky with the colors they're given. So having more colors in your level definitely adds a degree of skill, which is another thing that you should definitely keep in mind when you're making your levels. If you want to make like a simple kind of fun level, it's really fun to make a 2 or 3 color level. But if you want to make something really puzzling with a maybe even a really specific solution, then having more colors, up to 6 colors, is a really fun way to do that. So again, I'm playing on right here. I'm playing on this sense of choice. So on the left-hand side, there's a rocket that's kind of higher up, but there's a gap beneath it. On the right-hand side, there's a rocket that's lower, but there's more stuff in the way. So I just love giving players these choices. I'm thinking about the moment-to-moment gameplay, the moment-to-moment experience of the player. I really want them to be thinking like constantly, am I doing the right thing? And so if I put them in this mindset of constantly examining, and so if everything was kind of just plain and there wasn't any choice, players wouldn't really be questioning their assumptions about the gameplay. But by presenting them with constant obvious choices, I think at least a little bit I'm getting them to be contemplative about the best strategies for playing this game. So that's why I'm always thinking about like obvious choices. So I'm going up the left side. It also kind of depends on the colors you're given. Because I had a yellow red, the left side was a pretty optimal path. So also it leads to this, going up the left side might be more optimal, but it leads to this slightly more difficult shot. Even though the game tells you exactly where the ball is going to land, most players are still just getting to their dexterity about the game, like their sense of how to aim precisely. So this is, even though it seems not skill based, given that it shows you where the ball is going to land, many players are not even that big of gamers for these kinds of games. So I'm definitely keeping in mind like the degree of skill is going to be lower. So that's another guiding principle of the early parts of this game, like how like thinking about players in terms of like they're just learning and they might not be gamers. So it's interesting designing these levels for people. Some players might be expert bubble shooters who've been playing this game since Puzzle Bobble in the 90s, and there might be some people who've like never even played a video game before. And I'm really trying to make levels that entertain both of them, which is a pretty difficult challenge. Okay, so this part of the level kind of mirrors this part of the world kind of mirrors the top of the world previous. So there's a star at the top on the right hand side that players could go for or they could not go for. However, in the last world, that star was lower, so I think it was more incentivizing to players to go for that lower star. But now I've tucked it higher, so I'm imagining that there's some players in the previous world that went after that top star, even though they didn't have to. And many of these people may see the value in stars at this point. So now I'm asking them to kind of put a little more investment into the star. Like, so it's not right in front of you, but so you're gonna have to work a little bit harder to get this star, which I hope players really do want to. So I'm going to go for the star so we can examine the level. It's also pretty interesting designing levels, knowing that some players might not even play them. Uh, it adds a lot to the game, so I definitely feel good doing it. But it's interesting. All right, this looks like a packed level, 15 moves. And again, all of the levels in this world are focused on the mechanic of the double rocket because I'm still trying to constantly put this in the player's head. This is how a rocket works, and this is why you should be interacting with it because it's incredibly powerful. So, looking at the match layout, it's not too chaotic, but it is kind of chaotic in the sense that there's different like they're not too it's not like a crazy level, but there's different match sizes everywhere, there's different shapes everywhere. Definitely players are going to have to examine the board, and like I'm putting them in the mindset of trying to read the board and strategize instead of just having it be like a uniform match pattern, and players would think less about how they would be playing. So there is some sense of choice. Maybe some more advanced players could go up the right hand side because these matches are thicker, so they could ignore this bottom rocket altogether and just go for the top rocket here. But it, I don't know, it might be advantageous depending on your colors at least. So I have a yellow pink, and yellow pink gets me pretty close to this rocket. So I do have to weigh that into my evaluation of what moves I make. So I'm just going to go up the left. I got a blue. I'm going to swap that so I can open up the rocket. Most So another thing I should point out is in these mini levels, I don't show the player exactly where the emoji is going to land. I give them an aim line that takes them halfway up the screen. So there's definitely a higher degree of skill in these levels, just in the sense that you have to be able to predict where your bubble is going to land. So I imagine most players wouldn't be able to make the shot, but I'm able to because I've made the game. Alright, so I don't have the best colors to get this rocket, so maybe I decide to just skip it. And maybe most players would just skip it. I'm imagining most players playing this game aren't the most attentive. They're just playing this game for the first time on a whim. So sometimes when you're making your own levels, it's really good to just make kind of random matches and don't look too hard into anything, and you'll be able to get what that first user experience is like for someone playing your level. Alright. So I have 5 moves left. So I could have made this level a little harder by reducing the move count, but I think I wanted players to be able to beat this one since they put all that work into getting the star. And it's still early on. I want the player to be kind of winning, 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 so they feel confident and they don't feel like the game is going to be too hard for them. Got it again. Alright, so we're at the top. I might play one more world, and then I might show you the editor and how to make your own levels. Oh, actually. So this next world, it's kind of a temporary design. The next world, I would love feedback on it, especially this world. So this is where I introduced the bubble wrap emoji. So bubble wraps are a lot like the soap emoji, but whereas the soap emoji, if you have a bunch of them together, if you just hit one of them, they all pop as one. The bubble wrap though, if you have a screen full of bubble wraps, you have to dig through them. They don't pop in a group like the soap bubbles do. So you'll notice the design of this world is very different than the first two worlds. The first two worlds were very chunky and uniform. Um, in World 3, so one's kind of skill or aspect concept of the game that I need players to be thinking about. So I need players to be thinking about aim for higher matches, but also I need them to realize that they can bounce emojis off the sides. So by creating a level in this pattern where it's just a thin strip down the middle, and I don't even give them a yellow at the beginning, I'm forcing them to learn how to bank their shots. Banking is what it's called when you bounce it off the wall. Um, so it's also a good time to show them the bubble wrap. So it pops the one it touches, but if you noticed, one of them it didn't pop because I didn't touch that one, so they don't pop in a group. So this is a really good design. Actually, I think I learned this concept from playing Bubble Witch Sega 3. I One of their very first levels is a shape similar to this, and so playing that game, I realized, oh, they are really consciously thinking about getting players to think about aiming for higher matches and also introducing the concept of banking without even doing. They don't need a. It's when you're designing games like this, you don't want to have to give players text and force them to learn things through pop-ups and stuff. So it's the best way to teach players this, and this applies for all video games, is through level design, which is it's a subtle way of teaching something, and it's not overbearing, and it doesn't require players read text, which 90% of players don't read anything. So that's one reason why I don't have any real pop-ups that explain things. It's all just things you learn by playing. So I'm going to hit this star. I'm not really sure what level this is. Okay, so and at this point, the world design I showed you, this is the concept I have, but it's still a work in progress. So if you come up with your own design and you want to design the world for me, that would be amazing, or just give me feedback. Um, so it looks like I have six. Looks like I have six colors in this level, which is kind of a lot of choice. It's interesting. It's an interesting choice I made. So this is the first level with the soap with the bubble wrap. And so the first shot, it becomes very obvious how this obstacle works when you see that they don't all pop together. Players, and I also at the very top of this level, I do include a row of soap. So I was worried that players would confuse bubble wraps with soaps since they look kind of similar. So this is another way of distinguishing the mechanic between the two. At the bottom, you come to grips with the fact that they don't pop in a group, but then I remind you at the top that these soap bubbles do pop as a group, and it's an important difference to keep in mind when you're playing. So I would imagine maybe some players still don't even realize this all the way, and they might go for this like it's a soap drop, and then nothing happens. And due to the move count being sort of low, this might result in their failure. And due to the fact that there's six colors, like I'm gonna hit here. If I don't get a red or green, like that, so that almost cost me the level. I think I'll be able to make up for it, but so actually I do kind of like the design of this. Oh, I messed up. I wasn't paying attention. So I think I do really like the design of this level. I would love feedback though. So it all rests on this last shot, and I nailed it. I'm getting good rolls here. So I'm gonna show you one more thing. So I'm gonna go into the code of my game, and I'm gonna. So right now I started myself on a streak of three. So each I get this golden slot machine here. You only get the golden slot machine if you're on a streak of 3. If you've won multiple levels in a row, that means you get 3 chances to beat every level, and you get this jumbo slot machine, which gives you a ton of moves. So I'm gonna go into the code right now, into the server, and give myself a streak of 1 instead of 3. Or yeah, I'm gonna reload the game. Because I'm logged in, the game will remember my progress. I was kind of nervous about talking on camera, but it's not going horribly. Like, it's fun to talk off the top of my head about this kind of stuff. So if you notice, I put myself back on, down onto a streak of 1, and the UI has changed. So the UI, the top and bottom rows, actually you can't see it. Never mind. I hid it from the stream. Maybe it's not going as well as I thought. Just kidding. All right. So this second star in the world, it's pretty hidden behind these. So even if I had a yellow like this is a pretty tight shot, which I like. I like that I'm requiring some definite skill in order to get this star. I like that it's buried. And if players aren't paying the most attention, it's very easy to just bypass it. If you aim for the higher matches, it's very easy to drop. So I kind of like that. I think that's something I have to think about. Let me just hit it. Ah, disappointed. All right. So we got the star. Okay, so I'm on a streak of 1, a streak of 0, I guess. And so I only get 1 try to beat this level. So that's another reason why it's so important to win levels, because playing a level the first time, you don't know anything, so you're at a major disadvantage. So by beating levels and getting a streak and having more attempts at a level is a major advantage, which it adds a lot of weight onto the player's motivation to win, which I really like. They're not just playing the same level over and over and over again. They're really motivated to try to win, even though they aren't forced to. I never halt their progress entirely. At the look at this level, it's only a 2-color level, which is very interesting that I chose to do that. I think I needed something like a concept to keep the game. I wanted the game to be constantly feel fresh. So the last level, six colors. Maybe it was a little burdensome on the player. So maybe I changed the pace with the next level and give them a 2-color level. So there's the choices you make in a 2-color level are very different than the choices you make in a 6-color level. So it's a very different pacing, a very different experience. So also interestingly in this level, I am using both bubble wraps and soap, and I'm using them together. So players are witnessing the difference between these mechanics by like interacting with them at the same time. So I'm really starting to grok players to the idea that these two similar looking things do very different things, to be precise. All right. So I'm just kind of marching up the level. So I think many players would have not gone right up the middle. So if you chose to go up the left, you would have maybe climbed up to this yellow match, but then you'd have to climb all the way up to the right. So just by accident, I know this level. I went up the middle, and so I'm hoping that's a key that players will learn if they're on a streak. They'll learn after replaying the level that going up the middle in this level is advantageous because you get access to both of these top matches. And so another important thing is in these other levels, I've been really focusing on big drops at the top because I need players to learn the fact that they need to get to the top of the level and they need to be shooting for as high as possible. So I try to end every level in a drop because I need them to learn that that's how the game works. You have to get to the top and drop everything. So this is one of the early levels that actually, so I do it in the first level, but this is the only other level after that where I force them to make actual matches at the top to win. And that's kind of the usual experience. Most levels don't end in a drop. If it's a more puzzly level, they're going to end in making multiple matches at the top. So I think that's maybe one reason why I did that here. I wanted players to realize. So you can say I won with 4 moves. if I had gone up the left or right, I probably would have lost. So because I won, I got a streak of one, which gives me a. I don't have the new slot machine yet, but next time I'll be able to roll the slot machine with three different slots. So I can only win up to three moves because I don't have a streak yet, although I will next time. So this kind of shows how important it is to win levels. I just got one move for beating that level, but if you notice the other levels, I was winning 10 moves almost every time. An interesting fact about how the slot machine works is the bigger the slot machine you have, the more likely it is that smiley faces will spin. So the bigger the slot machine, the more likely you have of getting the smiley faces to show and winning moves. I did that because when I was playing the game, like normally, I think usually I had the odds of getting a smiley face were 50%. So 50% of the time you'd get a smiley face, 50% you wouldn't. But it felt bad because after getting such a high streak, so often the frowny faces were showing up, and I was rarely ever getting four smiley faces in a row. So I decided the more wins you get in a row, the more likelihood you have a chance of winning, because it just felt like you should be winning more often, kind of as you do better. All right. So I have a third star. I think this is the first world with 3 stars. I don't remember which level this is. And again, it's pretty easy to drop if I'm just making matches, not paying too much attention. Let's just see what it is. Okay, so in the previous level I mentioned at the top, I'm forcing players to start to have to make matches at the top. It's a little bit more puzzly. It's not like just a simple quick win. And so last level I had 2 matches at the top. Now I've split it into 3 matches. So I'm for sure players are going to be kind of grinding at the top a little bit more, which is kind of more the normal experience for these levels. So I'm kind of slowly working players into the top is a puzzle that you have to kind of be even more strategic about. And so I use a lot of bubble wraps. So the first shot is all bubble wrap. So this is one thing I like to do in my levels is whatever the mechanic is that I'm going to be covering in the level, I force them to reckon with that at the beginning. So judging by the first shot, after the first shot, you're going to remember what the bubble wrap does, and you're also going to have this expectation that this is an activity you're going to be doing often in this level. So I'm kind of setting expectations right away. And so also, I think, imagine I start with the purple. I imagine players would aim for the purple emoji here, just without thinking too much. And then they realize, oh, I wasted a move. I should have aimed a different color at the purple bubble wraps below, and then I'd have a purple to be able to make that match. So this is a really strong teaching moment for me to teach players about the dynamic of color management. So you need to be constantly thinking which bubble should I hit what with in order to have the optimal bubble for later. So this is having this teaching moment occur right away. Gives so if you make this mistake, having this mistake happen right away will give players this feeling of, oh, I need to play this again because now I have some inside information or a better understanding of how this game works that will better allow me to win next time. So I like that moment a lot. So I just kind of wasted a move or two. So let's see how I do here. This is kind of an advanced strategy. Many players wouldn't think to do 2 things at once. So by aiming the emoji right here, I'm able to make this annoying match that I missed, but I'm also able to clear this soap row. So I'm basically saving a move by doing this. So this is kind of a technique that you can build into your own levels. If you want to make a really puzzly strategic level, then it's a really good idea to have lots of opportunities for players to be doing more to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to say. So again, so it looks like this choice is all over this level, which I actually love. I'm really happy with myself as a level designer. So again, I'm seeing most players would make this blue match, but because the whole level I'm kind of showing players you can do 2 things at once, like be thinking ahead. I think maybe some players will especially after replaying the level over and over again, they'll start to realize, oh, like I can save a move by being extra smart. And so making that move, doing two things at once, makes players feel really smart, and it's a really rewarding feeling. Like, and players are, they get the feeling like that they're starting to master the gameplay, and that leads to like an increased sense of investment. So I'm really loving this level right now. I get really excited about really elegant but simple levels. So at the top, I switched to matches. So I like that because it's a little bit more puzzly, but it's still not too difficult. I'm gonna use this purple. It looks like this level also requires a degree of banking, of hitting it off the wall, which I really like because that's kind of a main theme in the world that they were playing. Okay, so this level is pretty. It's a pretty sharp escalation of skill. That's why I think I gave players so many moves here, because like hitting the top two purple or blue matches is a pretty it's a pretty hard shot. I don't even think I could do that. So I think I'm just going to aim for these bubble wraps. I could have done better there. So even still, like, so there's a lot of interesting choices here. So I think to me the optimal strategy would be to go for this soap row, because that will drop everything beneath it, and it'll be a lot easier to make these matches appear. Um, but I'm not like players who really understand the difference between these bubble wraps and these soaps will definitely do that. But I'm not sure that all players are going to be at that point by this point. So this might be a level that many of the beginner players lose, and it serves as a strong teaching. They at least learn about losing levels if they haven't already. And I think after two or three tries, players will definitely at least know that they could have won. Like, I think they'll be doing better each time. So if as long as they're continuing to do better and they're not totally like confused about why they lost, then that's at least a quality loss in my opinion. And also, if players lose once or twice and this is their last try and they might not have that many moves, they still have a chance of winning by going for this like ridiculous bank shot. So like players who don't make the smartest moves in this level, at least at the end of the level, they'll know they had a chance if they got lucky enough. So I really, what I'm trying to say is I'm an amazing level designer. No, just kidding. This is a good level. So blue. So like I played like a above average player and I barely won. So this is definitely a tricky level. So this is my second slot machine. I got pretty unlucky. I only got one move, but I get the four slot machine, the jumbo slot machine next time, and so I'll definitely be able to get a lot of moves out of that. So this is actually, I'm not sure if players will know this, but this is the top of the world. I'm guessing players will kind of just be making matches as usual. So there's an alternate strategy. You could be making matches like this, or you could be aiming for the top bubble wraps. And so if you clear a bunch of the bubble wraps at the top, then all of the bubbles emojis will drop from beneath and you'll win. So technically, if I did this, this would result in my win. But I'm guessing players don't really. I think players might even think that they have to clear these top bubble wraps in order to win. So this is a good. I think I designed this world like this to teach players. Oh, like after maybe you accidentally did this, they'll notice. Oh, I had some stuff left over at the top, but I still won the world. So this is another teaching moment that teaches players. Okay, you just have to clear the colored emojis. There could be stuff left over at the top, um, but that's not the objective of winning a world. To complete a world, you just have to clear all the faces, basically. So it's important for me to teach these lessons again because I'm not using text. I'm not using these pop-ups because players aren't. If you play a mobile game and you see a bunch of text pop-ups, like I know most of you know that you don't read any of them. I'm always tapping, and every player that I've seen play games like this, they never read the instructions. So that's why it's really important that I'm constantly looking for opportunities to teach, like to at least have players notice things about the gameplay by setting up the levels in a certain way. And so I get my slots. Oh, so close. Alright, so let me just show you this next obstacle. And I'm going to do some level design in front of you and show you how you can make your own levels. So this is the dice world. Dice is one of my favorite obstacles, especially early on, because it's purely based in chance. So I'll show you what I mean. So I have a bunch of single dice, dice that have no matches. So it doesn't really matter what the player does here. They're kind of just going. They're not really sure what the obstacle does yet, unless they've watched the tutorial. And so they're just gonna hit something, and they're gonna, I don't know. They still might not know what it does, but they notice that something transformed with the dice. What's actually happening is whenever you hit a die, it changes to a random color in the level, and after it changes colors, it can make matches with the things around it. So I hit that die, and it turned into a red die, and because there's a red match next to it, they all match together. So we'll keep playing, and you'll see how cool dice is. I'm sure you'll appreciate it as much as I do. So again, I have a star right away in front of the players. At the top of worlds, I tend to hide these stars away and make players have to kind of work for them. But for sometimes I need to have stars that players are forced, or they're more obvious that you should hit them. Just to make sure players are beating levels, are playing levels, and that they know that that's an important part of the game. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna show you another couple dice hits, and then I'll hit the star. Okay, so this die rolled a yellow. There's nothing around it, so it just stayed yellow. You can also match these dice. So I have some, especially here, I have most of them being matched dice. So players could just hit them and match them. This is a property of dice that I want to make sure players understand, that they are matchable just regularly. All right. Let me try to get a chain reaction here. Okay, so that die rolled into a red die and matched with the other red dice that were next to it. So I love dice because I like these dice that are matches, you can match them like normal. But if you're feeling risky, or if you don't have that many moves left in a level, you can choose to just try to make them spin, and they might end up, if you're lucky, they might end up making these giant matches that really help you out. So it's a really cool obstacle based in chance that makes players feel like they always have a chance of winning, at least, because kind of like how I had that really difficult bank shot in the previous level that I played. Uh, Even if you're doing poorly, you know you have a crazy chance of winning if you happen to get the right bank shot correctly. Same thing with these dice. If you're getting towards the end and you're kind of running out of moves, you have a chance of winning because there's these random elements in the games that you can kind of leverage, and maybe it'll roll your way, no pun intended, and you'll end up winning. So again, I haven't played these early levels in a while. I've been kind of focused on doing some other stuff. So I'm curious what the first dice level is going to be. Ooh, I love this level. So this level, I'm really forcing players to grapple with the mechanic of dice. So it's this structure of being like something that's coming down the middle with space on the sides. It's very similar to that world number 3 with the bubble wraps, where I had just a single column of matches, and so players were kind of forced to bank. So right here, players are kind of forced to bank, and they're kind of used to the strategy from that world that was like this. But by banking, they can only hit these single dice. So along the sides are just filled with single dice that the players kind of force interact with. They could slowly kind of march up the middle, but they'd have to have the exact right color. There's only one color per time. They'd have to have a blue, then a red, then a green. And so I'm expecting players to kind of be experimenting with dice at this point and figuring out what they do. So let's see if I can get some good bounce shots. Ooh, those all rolled green, so I got a huge match there. So players could technically keep working here, but these are pretty difficult shots. They're pretty tight bank shots. And so I'm hoping, because players saw that huge match, they might try to go up the other side and see what happens. Oh, I got pretty unlucky. So that's the thing about dice. Like, players could get themselves into difficult situations if they uh, end up getting unlucky. That's something you have to think about as a level designer. Oh, I got a big blue match there because the die rolled blue. All right. So I make sure the reason I structured my level like this is I have these tight points where I'm hoping players will aim for, because I could aim for like the dice up here, but that doesn't give me as much progress as if I aim for the little tight shots here, because if I make this red match here, then that's basically almost a drop right there alone. So even if I don't know, even if that's not the optimal strategy, like there's a lot of choices. Do players aim for the wider spaces, the tighter spaces? Players are going to be leveraging their skill in different ways and exploring what the best strategy is. Having multiple like different kinds of strategies is really good for replayability. So I like this level so far. Okay, so at the top of the level, I'm really forcing players to recognize how dice work and to use them to make the cascade matches, which is what happens when a dice rolls a color and makes a match. I'm really forcing them to kind of use this dynamic in order to win, because I have a few big matches at the top that are very chunky and all single dice below. So let's see what happens. Ooh, didn't get too lucky there. Let me try the other side. And also, again, I have these tight little pockets where players could aim, and I think it's the best place to aim your bubbles, because if you hit this tight pocket right here, you're hitting 4 dice at once, and so you have a lot more opportunities to make matches as compared to the shot here where I only had 2 dice with one single color. All right, so this is a little tricky at the end. I'm giving players a lot of moves, which I think is smart of me to do because this is tricky and it's still early on in the game. So that was a pretty skilled shot on my part. So I could try to make a crazy bank, but I'm going to just go up the middle since I have a few moves. And voila, one again. And I got all 4. So as you notice, many times you get all 4 smiley faces when you roll the jumbo slot machine. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there for now. We made it halfway through World 4. The next world, I would unlock the bomb emoji, which blows up stuff around it. But I want to show you the level creator right now. So beneath on the screen, if you go to Play Emoji Pop, you'll see what I'm talking about at playemojipop.com. There's a bottom UI where it has the different modes for the game. So the mode we've been on is the world mode. So if I go there, this is the normal gameplay. But there's a pencil icon at the bottom, and by clicking that, I open up the level creator. So in the level creator, at the bottom, I have all of the emojis I've unlocked by playing the game so far. So all the faces that I have and all of the special emoji obstacles. At the top, I have this big grid where I can place my emojis in to design my own level. So for example, if I hit the angry emoji, I can draw angry emojis on the screen. And then I can use the X if I want to delete them. And same thing with all of the obstacles. So that's how you kind of draw out your level. I also have an edit tab where you can delete your level. I'm not sure if that even works. You can choose to delete entire rows or add rows if you've made part of the level, but maybe you want to add something in between. That's how you would do that. You would add or delete rows from certain parts of your level. This is also the tab where you can change the number of moves your level should take. So this is something you would do after testing your level. So I'm going to test my level really fast. So you see how seamless this is. You can be drawing, testing, going back to the main game to play a little bit. It's meant to be like you have free control so you can quickly design levels and go back to playing if you want to take a break. Okay, so I just beat the level. I can hit the quit button to go back. So what I'm imagining players are going to be doing is they're going to be drawing some stuff in their level, testing it out, going back to drawing, adjusting the number of moves it takes. And then after they're happy with their level, they're going to hit save. And if they've logged in, the game will save your level to the server. And we'll talk about the cool stuff that happens when you save your level after that. But first, I want to design a quick level. I want to design a dice level. So I want to imagine we were on the dice world previously. And so we were right here in the game. So I want to imagine what the next level would be. I already have one designed, but I forget what it is. So I'm just going to imagine I don't have a level there. I'm going to design a level that will be the second dice level. So because it's the second dice level in the world, it should be a little more difficult. So the first star in each world, I really designed to force players to grapple with the main mechanic and maybe teach them a fundamental part of the game, or at least reinforce something that's important that I need players to know going forth in the game. The second and third stars in the world are usually like show an alternate side of the mechanic, or they add a twist or make things a little more difficult so that you have to interact with the obstacle in a slightly different way. And saying all this, I have no idea what this level is going to be. I had no conception of what I wanted to design in this level, just so you know. So so another thing that's important is to vary the kinds of levels that the kinds of strategy that's involved, and the kind of like the look of the level that you're playing. So in the previous level for dice, it was a very bank focused. It was a level very focused on making these wall bouncing shots and interacting directly with the dice emojis. So I think in this level, it should be something that's a little more chunky, like some of the other levels that we've seen. Something maybe with a little more like strategic choices, or that plays into what path the player should go on. So speaking of this off the top of my head, something that I really like about using dice is that you can use them in a way that really creates a strong sense of choice. So for example, I could design the left half of the level with solid emojis, and I could design the right half of the level with dice emojis. And so the challenge in this would be to make sure that both sides are maybe about equivalent, like they're both possible for players to win to about the same degree. But so I like this choice because if players have difficulty at first going up one side, they still have the option to go up the other side the next time, which adds a lot of replayability to the experience of playing the level. It also gives players a really strong choice based on their preference. So if they're not comfortable using the dice, or they're just not good at it for some reason, I've known some people who are just incredibly unlucky and they have a bad experience with obstacles like this. So they always try. They don't like to interact with them. Everyone has those obstacles in mobile games where you don't like them and you dread having to see a level full of it and playing it. So by giving this choice, I'm not forcing players to interact with the obstacle. I'm giving them, like, based on their play style, they're going to be able to adjust their gameplay strategies accordingly. So that's another reason why I kind of like this idea of having the left side be solids and the right side be dice. So I think I'm going to do something like that here. So a couple other things to think about are, besides the structure, which I've already talked about, it being chunky and being divided into two, left and right. I also think that I need to also think about the sizes of the matches and like the pattern. Is it going to be something that's very chaotic? Is it something that's very structured? How do the matches vary across the level? Another thing that I was thinking about just now is, if I'm having one side be solid and the other side be dice, I kind of like the idea of having there be a kind of optimal strategy for players to go up the middle. So if you have like if you have like regular emojis on this side and dice on this side, you can kind of actually play both sides if you go up the middle. So you could be making matches if I had a red bubble, I'd make a red match here. But by making it right here and not over here, I'm also able to roll the dice while I'm making matches. So that might be an optimal strategy because, as I said, it's a really good idea, a good strategic choice to be doing multiple things with your bubbles at once if you can. So I'm thinking this might be another interesting mechanic. So I think I might try it out. Of course, all this stuff, sometimes it totally changes when you play a level that doesn't work out as you thought it would, and sometimes it leads you down new paths that you didn't even think about. So that's something we're gonna have to wait and see. Uh, Another quick thing when you're some of these emojis have alternate options, and these appear on the right hand side at the bottom of the emoji panel. So for the dice, I have the dice selected here. I can select what color I want to draw by selecting the colored dice here, just so you know how it works. When in the actual practice of designing levels like this, uh, it's I don't know, it's kind of an art form because there's no best way to do this. So right now I was just thinking, do I want to design the bottom of the level first, or do I want to design the top of the level first? Uh, and it kind of depends on the level you're making, which is the best way to go. But I don't know exactly what the level is that I'm making, so you kind of just have to jump in and start making stuff and testing it out, and you kind of learn. I don't know. It's just it's a really interesting skill, which is why I love this kind of game so much. The artistry of making these levels is so deep. So I'm gonna start at the bottom because I want to think about the opening experience of the player working with both the solid emojis and the dice at the same time. So let me count the rows: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is the 11th row. It's important to know on most devices where I have the size on the screen available, I show 11 rows at once. So uh, when you're making levels, if you're trying to make it all fit into one screen, it's important to know that there's going to be 11 rows of bubbles shown to the player. This is also important because you need to know that players aren't going to see the stuff above these 11 rows. So you shouldn't design a level. If I design like a 15 row level, uh, I need to know that players aren't going to see the top until they clear everything out from the bottom. So if I was making a 15 row level, it would probably be good to split it into two halves with like a soap row in the middle, so that players like see an objective they're working towards. They're not just grinding away, unaware of where they are geographically in the level. I don't know if that makes sense, but we'll just pretend it does. So I'm going to make an 11 row level so that it all fits into one screen. So sometimes I like to block out my level, meaning I don't design the whole thing piece by piece. I kind of just design the structure first. Again, like I said, do you design the bottom first or the top first? That's an interesting artistic practical choice. And same thing with this. Do you design the structure? Do you design the match pattern? Do you design move by move? These are all different approaches that lead you to create different kinds of levels. Yeah. So I'm gonna have solid bubbles over here. I'll make this a different color so I can distinguish it. I'm gonna have dice over here. So I'm thinking, do I want to have any dice on the left hand side? I think I might want to have single dice on the left side, and maybe dice matches on the right hand side, and then I might play that and see what the strategies that emerge from that, what the optimal play styles are, and then that might give me like a bit of a clue as to uh, whether this is a good like what the best final product for this level will be. So I think I'm going to just do that. Originally, I was going to do just dice. See, I'm going back and forth. Maybe I'll start off making it all solids. So go red, purple, yellow. So now I'm also thinking, how many colors do I want this level to be? So there's so many properties of level making, and a lot of times you just have to kind of try and experiment. Uh, I might start out with. I think there should be at least 5 colors because I want. So if I do 5 colors, I like the idea of doing 5 colors because that's a lot of colors, and so I want going up the left side with all the structural bubbles to be kind of difficult. So if it was just 3 colors, for example, going up the left side would be like an easy kind of experience because you always have the right colors to make. But if there's 5 colors, that makes you maybe want to go up the dice route because there's I don't know, it's more difficult to go up the left side because a lot of it requires you to get the right colors. But on the other hand, because there's 5 colors, the dice are a little more punishing because uh, if there's only 3 colors, they're more likely to roll out and match with each other. But because there's so many colors, most likely the dice is going to roll out into a color that it doesn't match anything around. So I'm just going to try 5 colors and see what happens. So green, and what other color do I want? Blue. So God, I love making levels. So I'm trying to think about like I'm laying out the colors in such a way that players aren't going to like. For example, if I had purple here, purple here, purple here, purple here, it's going to be a really punishing match pattern the way I lay out the colors because players who go up a certain route, they're not if they make the purple match, they're not going to get another purple for 5 moves on average. So it's going to be very difficult to be making progress. So you have to kind of scatter the colors in such a way so that by going up any path, like you see every color once before you see purple again, for example. So that's why I put the purple over here originally and had red here. And so what color should be here? Probably green because I have a green over here. So if you go up here, if you have a red or purple and a blue, you haven't used the green yet, so you probably still have a green bubble. So I'm making sure to use all the colors going up every path. So this is something that kind of takes experience, which I have some of, and this is something that is you'll definitely learn by playing your levels and by sharing them on social media and getting feedback from players and watching people like me play them on these streams. This is something that you'll learn how to build into your to put into your mind while you're designing these levels so that you don't even have to play them in order to recognize this. So I'm going to continue laying the colors. I'm going to put red here. So I left this spot blank in the middle. I'm not sure whether I want there to be dice there or solid or nothing. I haven't decided yet. I could even use the bubble wrap if I wanted something that I know players will be able to. If I'm afraid of it being grindy, I could put something easy there like bubble wrap for players to have something they can do that's obvious, kind of. But we'll see. So like for example, let's see if I did yellow, red, green, purple. They haven't used a blue yet, so I'm gonna put a blue here. Purple looks good here. Actually, maybe a yellow here and a purple next to it in case they go up the middle. So you can't tell because you can't read into my mind, but I am thinking I'm basically playing the game over and over in my head and imagining like the different colors I'd get and imagining myself going up the paths. So that's something you should definitely be trying to simulate the game in your head if you can. So over here, we haven't seen a blue in a long while, so I'm going to put blue and yellow here, it looks like. Green. Red here looks good. So we're getting close to the top. So this is going to be a kind of a... They're only going to be able to make one... Optimally, if they get the best colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it will take them 7 moves to get right here if they get a perfect combination. So this is going to be a kind of a bulky level with a lot of moves. So that's something I should be thinking about, and if I want to make it easier, I could maybe make some of these matches larger. It would be kind of fun to have some different size matches here now that I'm looking at it. So that might be something I add to the level after I try it out. We don't have a red on the left hand side in a while. You'll notice that there's kind of some patterns emerging, like 3 reds here, 3 reds here. The way the purples are scattered, like it's kind of repeating itself in a certain way by the nature of the colors, which is fine. Blue here. Yellow. Purple, green. So actually, I think I am following an exact pattern. For example, these 2 rows here are exactly like these 2 rows here. So to save time, it's if you can find a color pattern that works for a couple rows, like it's totally fine to just copy it up the whole way. Players don't even really notice. It gives your level a nice kind of attribute of symmetry, which is pleasant to look at, and it makes sure your level is going to be symmetric in terms of having a balanced color, having the paths be kind of color balanced, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna have the top row here be soap for now, so that I can test the level and kind of see what the experience is like. Green. Yellow. Okay, so before we test it, I'm gonna do the right hand side. Oops. I'm gonna do at least the basic dice layout here. So I'm thinking, do I want these dice to be all matches? Do I want there to be single dice? I think I want them to be matches, at least most of the way up, because I don't want players to feel forced to interact with this random mechanic, especially because I have 5 colors in this level. Having a lot of single colored dice could be really punishing if players get unlucky. So I might try to make them matches, and then players, if they want to roll them by hitting a wrong color there, they can totally choose to do that. So let's see. Blue. So also, especially this is very important at the bottom, you want to make sure that you give every color it's a match at the bottom, so that players have they know they have like an opening move. The worst experience I could imagine is you open a level and the bottom colors are all red and yellow and blue, but you have a green and purple bubble here, so there's nothing you can do on the very first match. That's a very frustrating experience. So you need to make sure you give the player every color choice at the very beginning of the level when they open it up. So the only color I don't have so far left is green, and then I think I'm gonna make purple here, since purple's on the far left, which is a little disadvantageous because going up the middle is going to be more advantageous. So I'm gonna give them 2 purple options at the bottom to kind of maybe make up for that a little. Maybe that's just in my head, I'm not sure. So on the right hand side left we have red and yellow. I might put yellow here since I don't want to be right next to the yellow here, although that could be an interesting mechanic. We'll see. Gonna leave the centers blank. Actually, so because I wanted to focus on the mechanic of going up the middle, the kind of strategy of going up the middle and hitting the solid matches along with the dice matches, having these little pockets be empty might be a really good inviting place for players to do that. So I'm gonna leave them blank and see how it plays. I think that might be a really good element of the level, especially because these are the only blank spots in the entire level. They're going to really grab the player's attention. So going to put green here, purple here because I don't want purple right above the other purple match, and then all that's left is blue. I need a red. I don't have a red left, a red match yet up the right hand side, so I definitely need a big red match here. And it looks like I need a yellow dice match on the left side here. And so I think this is probably going to be, these 4 rows are probably, I'm just going to repeat all the way up. So I'm just going to do that now. So at the bottom row I had blue, green, purple, blue, green, purple, then red, yellow. Someday it would be really nice to add a copy paste feature. I could definitely do that if players found that useful. Green, so then the third row is green, purple, blue. So I'm going to add green, purple, blue, and then yellow, red. And that takes me most of the way up. I just need to repeat half of it first. Blue, green, purple, red, yellow. So blue hasn't been shown in a while. Blue. Green hasn't been up the middle in a while. Green. Purple. And then red, yellow. Alright, before I do anything, I'm going to save this level. And I'll show you how this works. So if you hit save right here, so that opens up our level browser. So these are all the levels you've made in the game. Yours will probably show up in the first slot, but I've made a lot of levels. So you can scroll through your levels by hitting these little hand emojis. I made the entire game using emojis, even in the UI, if you hadn't noticed already. Even the pop-ups are the phone emojis. So I've clicked the level that I just made. And so I have a few options here. The thing that I love about this game is that you can immediately share your level. So in the last 10 minutes, I walked you through myself making a level. It's in the server because I saved it. And every level is given a web link. So this is the web link, which I can copy either by clicking it or just by hitting the copy button. And then I could message it to my friends or paste it onto some website, and they'll be able to play the level just by clicking this web link. They don't have to have a certain device. They don't have to have they don't have to have an account. They don't have to pay for anything. They will hit this link and they will play your level. So the whole world is your audience at this point. Something I was really frustrated about when I was learning game design is that everywhere you go to learn game design, it's focused on programming or something like that. So in college and before, even in high school, whenever I would learn about game development, it was always just learning how to program. But learning game design is probably the most important skill for making games. So it's the skill that I see absent in the industry the most. So for these kinds of games, they're mostly copy-paste games of one another. And so when I made my very first free-to-play mobile game that I made in college, the big thing was programming. So all 4 years of college, I learned how to code, and I learned software engineering and math and all this stuff. And we made this cool game with programming, but we didn't know much about game design in order to make it a great game. So what I love about Emoji Pop is that it's important to learn coding on the side if you're interested in certain niches of game development. But I needed to give players a tool to actually learn games by designing them and not requiring them to learn code and have that be the main obstacle. So by playing Emoji Pop, by unlocking emojis in the game, and by making your own levels, the whole world is your audience. You are a published game designer. I want to publish players' levels. I want to showcase them. You can share them yourself on social media and build a following. You can get feedback from players. And I'm going to be adding so many cool features that will allow you to make even beyond simple bubble shooter games. You're going to be able to make insane creations, not through code, but by actually designing levels. And so I didn't get to learn game design until I got my first game design job. I mean, I learned some stuff about game design, but I didn't learn any practical skills. So just in making this level, by hearing me talk about all of these dynamics and strategies and how to create these levels and how to think about color and structure and tutorialization and all this stuff, I had no idea about any of these practical game design skills. And so Emoji Pop is a tool for you to actually learn these skills and maybe even get a job designing levels in the industry, which is a really common job that a lot of people do. So you can copy this web link and you can paste it somewhere, or you can click the Twitter or Facebook buttons to share it directly onto social media. If you do that, please include the hashtag EmojiPop so that I can find your levels on social media and I could play them on the stream or just play them and message you or ask you if I could feature them in the game itself. So another mode in this game I want to show you is if you click on the bottom left, if you're playing the game, on the bottom left there's a button with some people's faces on it. And so this is where I feature user levels. So if you run out of moves playing the main game, you can always hop on over to the user levels tab and you can play players' levels in order to get extra moves in the actual game. And so your content will be featured and players will be actually playing the levels as if it were a regular part of the game, which it is. So and I also make sure to include your Twitter handle if you shared it on social media so that players who really like your level can follow you and play your other creations as well. So I'm going to test the level right now. You can also edit it and go back to the editor mode. So if I made this level on Monday, I could do other stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday I want to come back, and then I could decide to change the level or add it in certain ways. And so this is what the edit feature does. It allows you to modify your levels at a later date so you can constantly keep designing and improving your levels over time. So I'm going to test this level right now. So right off the bat, I'm given a yellow emoji. So I got pretty lucky off the bat because I want this level to be kind of about the idea of going up the middle and hitting dice along with emojis at the same time. Okay, so that rolled into another blue dice, so I didn't get anything about that. Let me try it again by hitting it here. I rolled blue again. I'm hoping it's not a bug, but I'm pretty sure I just got really unlucky. Okay, so that was a good one. So I hit that pocket that I was talking about, and it made a huge match. Oh, right here is interesting. I have a blue emoji match next to a dice emoji match, and they're both blue, so I could hit them both and match them at the same time, which is pretty powerful. So I think I'm gonna save that blue bubble, and I have some kind of stuff in the way, so I'm gonna see if I can kind of just get lucky with some matches down here. So I got pretty lucky right there, and so that opened up the path for me to keep going up the middle, which is cool. Oh, I forgot, I only have 5 moves on this level, so I might not be able to get too far. Cool. So I get another opportunity to do 2 things at once here. Okay, I didn't get the luckiest, but I got a red bubble, so I get to try it again. Okay. So let me try it again. So I'm really relying on this strategy of going up the middle and hitting dice along with emojis at the same time. If I had gone up the sides, I would not have made this much progress. So I think my attempts to focus on hitting the center pieces with structural emojis and with dice at the same time it's definitely a visually obvious strategy, and in practice so far at least it's been a really rewarding strategy. Okay, I got unlucky there, and so I'm gonna lose the level because I ran out of moves. So it's impossible really to know what number of moves you should give your player without having played it. So I was a pretty lucky playthrough, I think. So that took about 10 moves. I only needed a few more moves, so I think I want to add. If I could have won if I got really lucky with 2 to 4 more moves. So I think I'm gonna add 4 more moves, and I'm gonna try the level again. So I'm gonna go edit. Go to the edit tab. I'm gonna add 4 moves. Hit save again. And let's see. Oops. So that's something I need to fix. I think I have to reload the game maybe to change the number of moves. That is a bug that I will fix shortly. I knew there was going to be something that popped up that was a little messed up. So let's go to the level browser and open up the level that I made. And let's see if it's a serious bug or something I can fix. Okay, going to make it 14 moves. Save. Ah, still 10. I gotta fix that. Okay, so still, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete the bottom 2 rows for now. So that will make it so that I can technically beat this level in 10 moves. But also, it did seem a little bit grindy. By grindy, I mean like I could see a lot of players be making a lot of matches. Like it's a little strategy heavy, is what I'm trying to say. So that kind of level, I want to be somewhat short. I'm also going to be putting this pretty early in the game in World 4, the second star in World 4. So I want to be short. Also, by making it short, players kind of run into their failures quicker. So imagine if this was 30 rows long. That's a really long, frustrating experience if you don't play optimally. Uh, so by making it short, it's the frustrating experience doesn't last as long, but also the player feels like they're closer to the objective at the top anyway. Which also I like that I thinking about this again. I really like this top row of soap here because if it was a bunch of matches at the top or something like that, you'd have to go through multiple parts of this puzzle, and I want it to be about choice. So having the top row be like a clear, it allows that choice to exist because you go up one way and that's the way you go up. It's you don't have to go up both ways. That would kind of remove if I had a match on the left and a match on the right on the top row. That would remove the sense of choice. It would remove the choice entirely. So I like that this top row is soap. So I deleted the bottom 2 rows. Hopefully this works. I saved it and we tested out and it removed the bottom 2 rows. So I'm going to fix that bug where it doesn't update your move count tonight. So if you're watching this, I think it will have been fixed. Okay, so this is an interesting experience. I don't have a purple or a green to start off by going with the middle. So I guess I'm going to go up the side a little bit. I have a green. Let's hit that here. So notice I'm hitting it next to the purple die because I want to roll it. Maybe it rolls out red and it drops a bunch of bubbles. Okay, didn't get too lucky there. I'm gonna hit this purple so that it also rolls out the yellow die. Didn't get too lucky, but I have this. This is called a cross match. When you're combining 2 matches together but with one bubble, we call that a cross match. All right. So I didn't get too lucky at the beginning. That was a good drop, but it doesn't really save me that many moves because it's kind of on the side. So I'd have to get pretty lucky to win from here. Okay, another cross match. I like that there's some cross matches in this. Could have gotten lucky, but I didn't. So you'll notice I'm not getting. This is kind of an unlucky playthrough, so it's okay that I'm not going to win because other times I will get lucky. So see right here, I was just 1 or 2 moves away from winning. That's definitely achievable. Let's try it one more time. Oops, wrong level. Alright, I'm gonna try to get a good starting couple bubbles. Yellow, red. Yeah, let's try it. So I'm gonna hit it right here, roll a bunch. So that was pretty good. Let me make this match here. Okay, so now we have something we can work with a bit. So I'm going to hit this blue match in such a way so that I also roll this green die. Oh, nice. So if I win this level, I'm going to feel amazing because I felt like I made some smart decisions there that saved me moves. So I'll especially after losing a couple times, I'm gonna feel like I've learned something from this level, that I've learned a new skill, that I've kind of mastered what this level is trying to teach me. Again, getting really lucky. So look how different the look how different of an outcome we have compared to the last playthrough. So I could almost beat it just with that. I'm gonna hit these purple matches, then I'm gonna win with 3 moves left over. So this level has a pretty wide swing. So I could have lost by a few moves, or I could have won by a few moves, and it's only a 10 move level. So I like that variability. I like that replayability. So I think this is a pretty good level to add to the game in the world where I suggested. Okay, so I think I've walked you through the basics. I walked you through the first few worlds of Emoji Pop and how I designed them, and I also showed you how you can create an account and design your own levels and share them. And uh, another reason why I want to do these streams is because in the level design tutorial videos I do, I'm kind of explaining concepts, but I think to really learn game design, you have to really get into this certain mindset. You have to there's all these little things that come up, and when you're faced with the blank page, it's kind of difficult to really get started. And so I'm hoping by players watching me design levels and by myself talking, saying everything that's in my head when I design these things, that they'll be able to learn just by hearing me. And I'm also hoping that players decide to make their own levels and share them with me, so that we can kind of make this a sort of like class, while we're all quarantined, like we can all learn game design by making levels and sharing them with one another and playing them together on this stream, which I'm planning on doing every week. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm really looking forward to streaming in the future. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ldyllanwoodbury, and hit me up with your levels or your questions. Emoji Pop is still in development, which is why it's online only at playemojipop.com. So if anything goes wrong with your game, or you're having trouble getting logged in or something, like definitely let me know. This is I consider Emoji Pop to be a communal design experience where the players are just involved with the development of the game as me. Um, so not only is it a game making game where you're making levels within the game, but you're also helping me make the game in general with your levels and with your feedback. So I'm really excited for this experience to be working with all of you people watching, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing your crazy creations, and you're going to be guiding the future development of Emoji Pop with your suggestions as to what you want in the game, what features you want. I'm definitely going to be listening to players as to their ideas. So you're going to have a hand in the development of this game to a degree that no other game lets players have. So thank you so much for watching, and I will definitely see you soon. I forgot I need to figure out how to stop stream. This is my first stream, by the way.